Guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today I wanted to come in here and review the Too Faced Peanut Butter and Honey palette. So I know I did a first impressions of this palette and I kind of wasn't very excited about it. I kind of probably made you guys not so excited about it too. Now, I'm not going to say that anything about the palette itself changed. Like, the pigmentation is still the same, but there is a way to make this pigmentation work. So what I want to do is talk to you guys a little bit about the pigmentation still in this palette and how you can make it work and get a more bold eye look like I've created today. I did create this eye look using only this palette. I didn't add any other colors in from anywhere. So, but the thing you have to do is add the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk. If you have this Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, then you can definitely make these colors more vibrant and make them pop a lot more. And I had to layer up. The yellow that is on my eyelids right now is layered up like 3 times. So I did have to layer quite a bit in order to create the eye look that I have, in order to get the pigmentation that I wanted out of this palette. Now, as far as the quality of the palette, I feel like it's not quite the same as the peanut butter and jelly palette. If you have the peanut butter and jelly palette, I think the pigmentation in this one is absolutely amazing. You don't have any problems with it. You do not have to add 3 or 4 layers of product to be able to get a good eye look out of it. So I'm still complaining about the quality as far as pigmentation. The pigmentation to me still is not quite on par. I had to, of course, resort to using the Milk Eye Pencil to get mine to look better. And with the peanut butter and jelly palette, I never had to do that. So now as far as the palette goes for shadows, each of these shadows I've noticed there are some little bit of issues. Some of them have issues and some of them there are no issues. So like Sweet as Honey, this is the row here. The first shade here, Creamed Honey, it cannot really be used to set all of your eyeshadows, which is typically that's what these are for, is to like set all over your lid. So you can use those for that or for highlight. This one here cannot really be used to set all over your lid because it does have some sparkle into it. And I'm not sure that you can even tell that in the pan here. But in person, you can definitely see that there's a little bit of sparkle into it. So it makes it hard to use as far as putting on your eyelid completely to use as your primer, to cover up your primer. Now, peanut butter is exactly the same as any other palette that has peanut butter in it. I've swatched all of them side by side and it's exactly the same. There's no difference whatsoever. The pigmentation's the same, the color's the same, everything is exactly the same. Now, Going Nuts here is actually a very unique color. I love this shade right here, Going Nuts, but I did find it in another palette. So if you're interested in this palette because of this shade Going Nuts, let me swatch it for you. This is Going Nuts. Now, do you see how pretty that color is? It's a very unique looking color. I like it. It looks a little patchy, but honestly, it's not super bad. Now, I found this color in, is it this one here? Nope, that's not it. I'm trying to figure out where I found it at. I found it in another palette here. Okay, here it is. And the Too Faced Bon Bon palette, there's a shade in here called Dark Truffle. So down here in the corner, there's a shade called Dark Truffle. If you swatch that and you compare it to the one we have on my arm here, you can see that they're very, very similar. I think they might actually be the same exact color, but I mean, I'm not for sure. I think they might be off by just a slight tone. So if you were looking for this palette because of that shade right there, because it is more of it's like a metallic type of shade. It's not duochrome or anything like that. It's a metallic shade. Because you are getting some mattes, some metallics, and a little bit of, what do they call them? Light pales. Pale lights. I don't know what the heck that means. I've never heard somebody describe a shade as a pale light. I don't know. However, I feel like that color is the same exact shade as in the Bon Bon palette. So if you were considering getting it because of the shade right here, Going Nuts, it is in the Bon Bon palette. Now, the next row here, this is called the Queen Bee row. So Sweet Bee is your only matte, one of the big shades here. So this is a matte shade and it works really good for setting all over your eyelid. So if you're looking for something to set over your eyelid, this one's perfect. It's like a pale pink. Then Honey Brittle is like an orangey pink, as if it's like a very light peachy orange. So it's a really pretty color, and I honestly cannot find in anything that I have from Too Faced that I have anything that dupes it. So I have nothing. That's a really terrible swatch because we have swatches over top of swatches here now going on. So let's see if we can clean that up better, or we'll swatch it on this side. So here it is again. Here's Honey Brittle. Honey Brittle is just a very unique color. It's a very, very pretty color. To me, this would have been something that I would have looked forward to see in the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I would have loved to have seen that in this palette right here, because that's not actually a shade in here. You would think with this being a peach palette, that peachy shade would have been in there, but it's not. So again, that's another color that I I can't really dupe that color though out from the Too Faced collection. I'm sure there are other palettes around that you could dupe that exact color, but I can't dupe it. So the next thing is the Bee's Knees. The Bee's Knees does have some sparkle into it and it looks very, very pretty in person. And you put this, I have this on my bottom of my lash line. It's gorgeous. Like when you put it on, you can definitely see the sparkle into it, and I really do love this shade. This is one of those shades that kind of has grown on to me. I didn't really like it at first, and now it's like one of those shades that I really do like. I like the way it looks on the eye better than it does swatch. I can tell you this palette swatches horribly. I don't think any swatch you're ever going to see on this palette you're going to be impressed with. I've even seen Jared Blandino swatches, and his swatches don't even look good. So I'm like, look, it's not me, it's the palette. The palette does not swatch well. Putting it on the eyes is completely different than putting it onto your hands to swatch it, so just take note of that. The next thing is down here we have Queen Bee. Now this is the one that I did end up getting hard pan on. The very first time I used this, I got hard pan, which is really unusual. I've never seen a palette do that before in my entire time that I've had all the palettes that I have. I just thought that was strange. This one is more of, it reminds me of like an hourglass shadow. So, or like not a shadow, but an hourglass product, to where if you put it on, it almost looks powdery at first, but then you blend it out, it's more of a satin. So it's really, really beautiful. It's pretty to use for, I would say for like your brow bone highlight. It's really good for your brow bone highlight. I love it for that part. Now the next shade, which is the bright shade in here, which was the one everybody was so excited about, the Honey Buns. I went through every single palette I own. I can't find an exact dupe. There is nothing in every palette that I own that is an exact dupe. I have something that's a little bit close and I'll show you guys, but nothing that's an exact dupe. And nothing from Too Faced is an exact dupe. So bravo to Too Faced for that, because I cannot dupe it. I cannot. So here is what it looks like swatched. It is just like a yellow. It almost matches my shirt actually. I don't even think I planned that, but guess what? Here we go. So there's what it looks like swatch. Again, don't be relying on the swatches. The swatches are horrendous, and I know it. Everybody swatches that swatch. Everybody who swatches this palette says the same thing. It swatches awful. But on the eyes, you can create a beautiful eye look. And if you want to make a more bold eye look, of course, use the Milk Eye Pencil. Now, the last one here is Feelin' Nutty. And Feelin' Nutty is like an orangish brown, which is really pretty. But Peanut Butter is like an orangish brown too. But this one's more of like, I don't know, it's just... This one's just a really pretty color, and it's highly pigmented. Now this one's a very pigmented color. I don't know if this is in another palette or not. I really didn't try to dupe that one out because I didn't know that that would be a special one for anybody, that they would be like, yeah, that's the one I specifically want. But if that is a shade in there that you specifically want, let me know, because I can look through my collection and I can try to dupe it out. Now, as far as what I found for dupes, as for the yellow color, because that's the color that pretty much is the unusual color. Everything else I feel like you can find somewhere. So I cannot find a dupe. So the only yellow I could find in my drugstore brand collection was this one here, and this is from Be a Bombshell. And this yellow is not really the same. So let me see if I can swatch all of these side by side. So this is the Be a Bombshell one, and trying to get you a good swatch here. So there is Be a Bombshell. As you can tell, it's just a yellow. It's nothing real fancy to it. Now let me swatch the Too Faced. So this is Too Faced. So as you can tell, I mean, they look a little bit similar, but they're not exact. And that's okay. So that's why I think this palette is kind of unique, in that you cannot dupe that yellow color. Now, the other thing that I found that I had a yellow in was my Sephora mini collection. So I do have a yellow in here, and it looks quite similar actually. So if you look at them side by side, you can tell they look very similar, but I still don't feel like they're dupes. I feel like the consistency is a little bit different. Honestly, in the Sephora mini collection, so here's the Sephora mini right here, I feel like that's more pigmented, and I feel like it has a little bit of shimmer or something to it. And again, here's the Too Faced. So there they are side by side again. You can tell the Sephora mini one has a lot more pigmentation to it. So I really like the Sephora mini collection there. I know that wasn't a popular item on the Sephora website, but it was pretty good. I mean, the shadows in here are actually pretty decent. So if you're looking for a dupe and you do own this palette, that yellow is very close and actually is more pigmented, so you won't have to build it up 3 or 4 times like I had to on my eyes. Now, the only other yellow in high end that I have here is, I have some yellows here from the Urban Decay. This is the Urban Decay Spectrum palette. I don't feel like any of these yellows, either one of these match it whatsoever. They're pretty yellows, but they're not the same. I mean, that's a super bright yellow, and this is more of a pale yellow. So that's more of a golden yellow. So neither one of these really match it. So again, that's not a dupe. Now, the only other color that I do have in a single here, this is the MAC Suns Out, Buns Out Trolls collection. Now this one is more of a, like a brighter yellow too, but when you swatch it, it's really weird. So when I swatch this, here's what it looks like swatched. And then here's what this one looks like swatched. This is Too Faced again. So there's Too Faced and there's that one. They look kind of similar, not the same. That's why I'm trying to tell you guys that one's really, really hard to dupe. I really can't find a dupe. Now, as far as the drugstore brands, the other two that I have that are yellows is both from Wet n Wild. This one here is Artist in the Streets, and this is Poster Child. And neither one of these are dupes either. So I'm just showing you some yellow shades. So if you're just particularly looking for that yellow shade, these are some palettes that you could definitely find a yellow in that you could create an eye look similar to the eye look that you can get from this palette. But to be honest with you, I don't feel like the yellow in this is dupeable. I feel like the only thing that came the closest is the Sephora one, the Sephora Mini, and that's not even available anymore. So I can't find a dupe within my collection. I'm sure if you have a bigger collection than I do, you probably have a dupe within your collection, but I don't. Now, as far as this goes, this palette does smell a little bit like peanut butter, but it's not quite as pigmented, it's not quite as smelly as the peanut butter and jelly palette. The peanut butter and jelly palette has a little bit more fragrance to it. So if you were one that didn't like the peanut butter and jelly palette because of the fragrance to it, this one's a little more toned down. So this one's a little bit more muted down a little bit for you. So that's a plus, because I know some people didn't like the smell of the peanut butter. This does not actually contain peanuts, so if that's another concern of you guys, I'm trying to cover all my bases here so I can tell you guys everything I can about it. And of course, it does have a 12-month expiration on here, the back of here, but as long as you take care of your powder products, you don't really have to worry about that too much. But as far as this palette goes, I'm going to say if I had to give it out of 5 stars, I'm still going to give it a 4. I think it still deserves a 4. I think maybe before I gave it a 3.5. I think that's what I might have given it. But I think now I'm going to give it a 4 because I feel like the colors can be built up to where they're a little more pigmented. So that was my main concern with it before, was that I couldn't really get a good eye look out of it. The shadows just weren't deep enough for me. But the trick to it was using the milk pencil. I feel like the shadows do blend well. I feel like it is powdery though. It does have a lot of kick up, but I think that's typical for Too Faced shadows. So just note that. The peanut butter shade is the same peanut butter shade in all the other palettes. I'm kind of repeating myself now just in case, kind of wrap this up. But I feel like this is a great palette. For overall, I think it's definitely worth your money if you're interested in this palette. Now, the only thing that I don't like, the couple things that I don't like about this was that mine hit hard pan the very first day. I feel like the shadows have to use milk if you want to create a deeper eye look. You have to use milk to create a deeper one. The other thing is that I heard this is limited edition. So, unfortunately, if you do want this palette, you're going to have to grab it soon because it's going to be gone. So there for a while they were saying that the peanut butter and jelly palette was supposed to be limited edition and they brought it out permanently. And then now they're saying it's gone again. So I don't know. I'm not sure. But I do know that they're saying that this is limited edition. So if you want it, it is available at Ulta. And I think Too Faced too. So it is available at both of those places, and it's $36. So that's my whole complete final thoughts on this palette here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your final thoughts on this palette, whether you think you'll be picking it up or you've bought it and you're enjoying it, you love it, or let me know what you think of it. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later.